So in order for us to set up the authentication after we have set up everything in our index.html, and then we added all the dependencies in the previous video, we will also need on top of that have to go back to our book tracker app in our Firebase. And to the left here, you can see that we have, like I said before, different parts of this whole Firebase thing, right? So at the top, we have this authentication, and then we have Firebase, we have database, we have storage, and so many other things. So let's go to authentication here. Let's click on that. And we have to actually allow authentication in our application. So first of all, I'm going to go ahead and say get started. Okay. And then there's different way to sign users in. So in this case, sign in method. It could be email and password, phone, Google, so many other different ways. We're just going to go with the email and password. It is disabled. We need to enable it. So we're going to go ahead and click there. I'm going to say enable like this and say save. All right, now it is indeed enabled. Once we've done that, it is very simple. We can actually go to users tab, click here, and we can just add a new user just to test things out, right? So I'm going to just put an email that says me@me.com and password, say tester, for instance. Okay, I'm going to add this user. All right, that user was added, and you can see every user that is added. Of course, we have some information, the identifier, the email provider, it's going to email. That's what it's providing, right? Created date, sign in, we don't know yet. And then we have this unique user ID that was created as well. Okay, so we actually have a user. So now let's go to our code in our project here to test things out to see if we were able to sign in a user. Okay, just to test things out. Let's go to our login page. So in login here, we are going to go to the login form. So I'm going to say command and click will take us to our login form class. All right. So what we want to do is when we log in, when you hit enter to sign in this case, we want to do something. So right here, where on pressed earlier, we made sure that we are validating everything. And inside here, this is where we're going to instantiate a Firebase Auth instance. Well, at this point, because we have set up everything, we can say Firebase. If you keep typing, you're going to see now we have all these options. The reason why is because we have everything set up. That's very good. But we want Firebase Auth, keep typing, and then there it is. Firebase Auth, that instance. And then we want, what is that we want? We want the sign in with email and password. So there's different ways to sign in as I showed you in the console, right? So sign in with email. What do we need? Well, we need our email address, and we can get that from our email text controller.text to get the extra text. And for password, we want the underscore password controller.text. All right, save this, and let's not forget our semicolon. Very good. And there you have it. That's simple. Now the beauty here is as follows, because this Firebase that instance that sign with email, if you hover over, notice that it is a future type. In this case, that means this will be running and is expecting to return something at some point, right? So in this case here, that means then we can also invoke a then method, which is a promise. In this case, it's a promise in the sense that when we say .then, like this, right? It's a future type that promises to return a value. So essentially what's happening here, we're saying, okay, once this is ran, once we invoke the sign in with email and password, when that runs in the Firebase backend, we can then say, well, what is it that we receive back once this transaction is done with, right? Well, we're going to receive some sort of value. And this value, if you hover over, look at this. It says it's a user credential type. So it is indeed a Firebase user credential type, which means if we are successful in our login, we should have some information about the user that was logged in. It makes sense. So that's going to be passed as a value here. And we have this arrow function here. For now, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to say print, because we want to see the person who was logged in. And I can use that value that we'll be receiving, right? And say dot, look at this, because it's a credential, it has a lot of information. User object, right? I can invoke the user, and I want to see what else can I get. I'm just going to go ahead and get their UID, because each user has a unique ID. Remember this UID here. Okay, we could have taken or received any other field, but that's the field that I want to show you. Again, this means if we go through this process of signing in and enter the email and password, sign in, if the user exists, then we should see something in our console. Okay, let's go ahead and save this. All right, let's see. Moment of truth. Let's go sign in. And that was me@me.com. And the password was tester. All right, let's see. Click. Let's go to our console. Click terminal, new terminal. Let's go to our debug. and voila, we have UH9 and ends with 9W2. Is that true? UH9 and I'm going to just copy that UID so I can paste it somewhere. You can see that they are exactly the same. Yes, E9W2, E9W2 there. Very good. So that means we are indeed logged in. And the idea here is very simple. If you are already logged in, which means you are authenticated, right? There is a user in our Firebase there. We can do all sorts of things. We can then direct this user to say, okay, you are authenticated, you do exist, you're not an imposter. Then you can be directed to the next page. And there you have it. All right, very good. All right, in the next video, we are going to continue with this authentication, Firebase Auth authentication here. We are able to sign in with email and password, but notice we actually had to manually come and add the user here. We want to be able to create that user, right? And automatically from our app, and it's going to be created and then authenticate them. We're going to be doing that in the next video.